나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi friends, thanks for being here. Thank you for liking, subscribing to these videos. It means a lot for our Sangha, for our distribution, for our reach on YouTube. For me, it's just seeing this channel grow and in its reach and usefulness. I mean, the whole reason for this channel is to help us all to practice with more conviction, more confidence that this is in fact improving our lives. We're simple creatures, human beings. We are exceptionally talented at making things complicated. Do I even need to say that? Oh my goodness, look at the world today. The fantasies, I mean, whether you're in the rhetoric, conspiracy theories, or if you can't trust anyone, or if you're paranoid, I mean, if you're not paranoid, you're an idiot. If you are paranoid, you're an idiot. If you don't know, there are a million fingers pointing at each one of us, telling us we're idiots. Why don't we believe that? I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying, relax. Listen, this is a lesson I'm telling myself, okay? Struggling with the material world this morning, things like computers and switches and preferences and, oh, I updated something, so therefore everything else has to stop working. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. At the end of the day, you know what? It's really, really comforting to know, to really confidently know, not just wonder, not just hope. I really hate that word. But to know that no matter how crappy things are going, I can go to my Butsudan. I can look at that wonderful assemblage of concepts. It's always the same. It's always there. And I can chant. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Just Buddha. Just let me be in that mind of Buddha. Just right now. And, whether the world changes or I see amazing sparks and explosions of changes around me, I've seen enough of that to have confidence it'll happen, but I don't have to have it right now. I don't need to chant 3 times and go, did everything change? I have confidence. And the more we practice, the more we have this internal realization, and we can rely on, of all the craziness in life, that's really not that crazy. It really isn't. We need shelter. We need food. Some of us more than others. We need love. And I think one of the more difficult loves to experience in life is and this might sound schmaltzy, but self-love, being, not being so hard on ourselves. Who among us, and I'm guilty of this, when the equipment starts to fail, when things don't seem to be going, when I'm tripping over my own feet, I tend to get really upset with me. Like I'm somehow an idiot, too stupid, too incapable of doing something correctly. I don't know. My generation was raised with that. That was the paradigm. Religion uses that a lot. Makes you feel inferior. Until, even though you get rid of those influences, you know, whether it's a father with horrific mental issues that treats you like crap and you can't ever live up to anything, or you ladies, maybe it's a super critical mother. And then once they move on out of your lives, or you move on out of theirs, we take over that role and do it to ourselves. What up? It's really, really, really amazing the difficulty we have with being kind to ourselves. I'm not trying to vilify all parents out there or so on and so forth. I'm just making a point. Because our parent isn't just mom and dad. For many centuries now, our parent isn't just mom and dad, is it? It's the society. It's the extended family. It's brothers and sisters. It's people being critical. Now, there's a benefit to criticality. There's a place for it. As you know, I'm extremely critical of the translations of Buddhist scriptures. Why? Because there is only one Buddhism, and there is only one way to do it, and it was very clearly taught by Shakyamuni. And over again through the centuries and millennia since his expiration, great scholars have studied their entire lives to straighten out what should just be obvious, straight line, just do this. But there's always this human ego that wants to and change it and modify it. And for what? For ego. So yeah, it's important to be critical of that, because we want to do things correctly. But at the same time, we can't be hammering on our own heads every day for not quite getting it or straying, or because that's humanity. Something has to be kept clear, pure, straight, critical, critical thinking, for instance. But let's face it, we live in a time that even 3,000 years ago, Shakyamuni thought, yeah, the day's coming when shit gonna be crazy. And guess what? We're in it. Because if you look around today at any source of information, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, hopefully, today, at the beginning of this video, I'm not obviating my own crazy. I'm just trying to be lighthearted about greed, anger, and stupidity, right? The latter age of degeneration. So let's continue with opening of the eyes, or opening your eyes, they say here. I don't know how they came up with that one. This translation, it boggles my mind. What did they say the title is? I mean, it's the Kaimoku show. So I guess we're we're induced to translate that any old way. Mostly I've seen it as the opening of the eyes, but this is a different translation. And I'm trying to get to the title page. The Kaimoku Sho, ST98. Open your eyes to the Lotus teachings. Teaching. Open your eyes to the Lotus teaching. Okay. So, moving on. What an introduction. Thank you for being here once again. Also, Nichiren continues, the perfect teaching of the pre-Lotus Sutras is erroneous because it still remains in the first three categories of the four teachings. Again, there's this academic lilt or tendency in Nichiren because he's forced to do so. His life has become a constant restating of the obvious. He keeps going back to not only the teachings of Shakyamuni, literally quoting them, but the scholarship for thousands of years has demonstrated that there are 5 periods of teaching, that there are 4 types of teaching, that there's all these canons and scholarship for centuries and thousands of years before Nichiren that has established over and over again these groups, levels, terms of what Shakyamuni's teachings are. So he doesn't want to reinvent the wheel. He's saying, look, here I am in shogunate Japan in medieval times with all of these people doing their own thing, not really following the canons that... Chloe, why do you wait till we're in here to do that? I think she just wants your attention. If you don't know, Chloe's my little dog. She's a little feist. She was injured a couple of years ago, busted up her nose, and she's had breathing problems ever since. So I apologize. You hear a little snort, but she loves to be in here while I do these videos. So I hope you'll tolerate that occasional interruption. Anyway, back to Nichiren. He keeps going back to these established knowns, right? He always resorts, though, primarily to actual words of the teachings. But he also says, look, this is a tradition, a known scholarship, right? And even though there was a teaching for a time that was labeled the perfect teaching, it too was a teaching taught before the Lotus Sutra, which I will remind you, as Nichiren does all the time, specifically states all teachings before this, during this, and after this are beneath this teaching. They are in the hierarchy of understanding how to practice Buddhism. This is the pinnacle. This is what the point is for self-manifestation of enlightenment. Everything I've taught to this point has been provisional. Even if it's called the perfect teaching, it is perfect in relation to what was taught before it, but it is not the culmination of teaching. And so he keeps pointing this out and pointing this out. So it can sound rather repetitive. I've certainly heard myself talk about it many times, right? And out of some 800 videos on this channel, you will hear me talk about it many from different points of view, different Gosho, different, not even Gosho, sutras, right? I have a whole playlist on just reading through the Lotus Sutra specifically, chapter to chapter. You might find that helpful as you're starting out. Also other sutras, and just random from your questions, from your curiosities. What's going on with this? I have videos about confrontation, about just daily behavior, and how to understand it or view it through a Buddhist lens. Yeah. So yeah, if you have suggestions on that, please let me know. I either have done a video on it, and I'll give you the link if you don't know how to use the search on the channel. I'll help you with that. Or you may come up with something I haven't talked about, which is great, because then I can apply all of this research and scholarship to a new question. That's really good for me, too, so thank you for doing that. All right, back to the writing. Therefore, we are all still treading the way of error, even if we practice the ultimate teaching of the perfect Lotus Sutra, such as of the pre-Lotus Sutra, sorry. Get my eyes adjusted here. Let me start over. Therefore, we are still treading the way of error, even if we practice the ultimate teaching of the pre-Lotus Sutras, such as the Flower Garland and the Wisdom Sutras. Right? I've done lots of videos on the Wisdom Sutras, as they're often called in the playlist. What the heck? Perfection of wisdom, perfection, the Prajna Paramita, all of those, perfection of wisdom sutras. That's the Wisdom Sutras, right? And there's a lot to really gain, really, by reading that. If you're, especially if you consider yourself an intellectual, there's a lot of discussion on the mind-brain thing. But that's not how to self-enlighten. It's very enlightening. It's very inspiring and confidence-inspiring, in that you become to have you in those sutras you begin to deeply understand how the mind works and how our lives are actually experienced via those mechanisms, that apparatus that is the emergent mind of this body, this world, this planet, this universe, so on and so forth. But it still doesn't teach you how to instantiate your Buddha. Only the Lotus does. How much more should Honen and his disciples and followers be in error? Because they're not even doing that. They depended on such petty sutras as the Kumuryo Ju Kyo, the Sutra of Meditation on the Buddha of Infinite Life, which are inferior to such pre-Lotus sutras as the Flower Garland and the Wisdom, taking the lotus in the Kumuryo Ju Kyo and urging Pure Land believers to put aside, throw away, and close the gate, to discard the Lotus Sutra. Yeah, that's pretty insane, right? It'd be like if you're a student of math or physics or astronomy, and you come out and say, you know, all that Einstein stuff, throw that crap away. It's total malarkey. I know the way the actual universe works. Okay. Fine. Throw Einstein away, you moron. Aren't they the so-called slanderers of the true Dharma? Shakyamuni, Tahoe, many treasures, Buddha, they're right up there next to Namu on the mandala, and numerous other Buddhas from all over the universe came to this world in order to have the Lotus Sutra remain here forever. That's the story of the Lotus Sutra, right? Honen and Pure Land believers in Japan claim that the Lotus Sutra in the latter age of degeneration will perish before the Pure Land sect. Aren't they the enemies of those Buddhas? Yeah, they're basically saying, throw that out and do what we think you're capable of, because the Lotus Sutra is far too fancy. You know, Einstein's theories in relativity, in general relativity, specific relativity, They're completely useless. They're total baloney. They're too hard to understand. You know? You don't need to know that stuff. There's the moon, there's the stars. Pretty cool, huh? Oh, let's go eat a steak. That's all you need to know. Don't look any further. It'll just confuse you. You know, maybe they have a point. I mean, literally, this is pure land, right? As for the last of the three kinds of enemies of the Lotus Sutra, it is said that in the 13th chapter, the sutra, some monks will stay in a monastery wearing robes and sitting quietly. I don't sit quietly. They will preach the Dharma for lay people and will be revered by the people as though they were arhats with the 6 superhuman powers. The 6th Facile Nirvana Sutra asserts, men of Vichantika will act like arhats, but commit evil acts. And arhats will act like men of Vichantika, but have compassion. An arhat-like man of Ichantika refers to people slandering Mahayana Buddhism. An arhat acting like a man of Ichantika refers to a man despising the Hinayana sage of the Shravaka and widely preaching Mahayana Buddhism, saying to the people that both he and they are bodhisattvas, because everybody has Buddha nature in themselves. Nevertheless, those people would consider him a man of Ichantika. We're going to dissect that a little further, because some of you are saying, well, you say we're all bodhisattvas of the earth. Yeah, I believe that's true. But that doesn't, by saying that we're the bodhisattvas of the earth, what I'm saying is that you and I, and everyone alive today in this latter age of degeneration, are those people who were given the task in the Lotus Sutra 3,000 years ago, right? We are those future potentials. And the task of propagation was handed to us. Are we doing it? Well, certainly a lot aren't. So I'm not saying that each and every human being is a bodhisattva. Not at all, not by a stretch. What I am identifying, though, for our practice is the attitude of understanding that it is every human being alive today who has the potential and, in fact, the mission to instantiate their Buddha mind and course through this world as a bodhisattva. Because all of us are in the future realm described by Shakyamuni as those who would propagate the Lotus Sutra lest it be forgotten to history. So, bodhisattvas of the earth are human beings alive in this latter age of degeneration with the potential to spread, propagate widely the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha of self-enlightenment in the Lotus Sutra. That's what we are. Whether we actually perform that task, whether we actually do it, that's a different matter. So what this preaching, saying to people that both he and they are bodhisattvas, is an assumptive a way of inducing people to think that they're more than they are, that they are, by their very nature, bodhisattvas. They just need to, belong to the club of bodhisattvas, essentially, which is not what I'm saying. I'm saying by default, because we are the future to the 3,000 years ago teaching, that it is within our responsibility, our very constitution, our karmic momentum, to instantiate our bodhisattva nature. It is up to us. We are those bodhisattvas of the earth. But that doesn't immediately put a star on your head that says, you're a bodhisattva. No. That's not what I mean at all. So in a way, I'm glad I'm reading this so I can clear that up, because I'm not sure I've done a good job of that in the past. Some of you may have even had issues about that. I don't know. But do you understand what I'm saying? And I often say it because it's important that you and I have the attitude that as we course through the world, we meet a lot of ignorant people. Some very difficult to contend with, but we have to keep in our minds that at any given moment, that person, no matter how we may feel about them, something may occur to them that will, and it may be you, will plant the seed of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo in their minds. And they may revile you, they may call you an idiot, but the seed's been planted, and in a year, 10 years, at some point, their mind will evolve, and they will begin to practice and perhaps be a very talented communicator of Buddhism. Everyone has that potential. That's what this means. And so it means we carry ourselves differently in society with that knowledge. Not blindly, not, jumping around like a hippie with flowers in our hands thinking everyone's beautiful and loving. They all have the potential to be beautiful and loving, whether they're realizing that in their lives or not. And you may be the one influence in their lives as you cross paths that will influence their projection, their trajectory, their momentum toward bodhisattva. Because the potential's there. So, anyway, enough on that. The Nirvana Sutra states, quote, after the death of Shakyamuni Buddha, monks in the age of semblance Dharma will not be sages. On the surface, they will appear to keep the precepts and recite sutras a little, but they will devour rich food and enjoy a prosperous life, so on and so forth. Although they wear robes of Buddhist monks, they will act for selfish gain, just like hunters walking slowly, aiming at game and squinting their eyes, or cats stalking a rat. Remember what I always say, Buddhism is about attitude and intent. So we may meet people who are, I've met people who just could recite sutras at the drop of a dime, yeah? They're really good at remembering. And they've studied. To their credit, they've studied. But they didn't get the meaning. They didn't incorporate in their potential the meaning, the depths, they just see the words. And the words, with their ego, gives them a sort of power. The power to influence others because they're so well read and they can quote so many lines of different sutras. But when they look upon other humans, rather than seeing a depth of compassion to help them elevate their lives and discover this amazing practice of Buddhism, they see them as potential targets. How can I take advantage of this person? Oh, they're interested in Buddhism. I got them. I'll razzle-dazzle them with everything I know about Buddhism, and they'll shower me with money, because by giving me all their money, I can tell them they'll get to the promised land. Well, how's that different than any other religion or sales force for that matter? This is the problem with those who chant Amida Buddha, the Nembutsu. They've all been convinced that the Buddha land is something they'll get to after they die. Friends, you know that's not Buddhism. That's religion, an abhorrent one, because it's using the very words of Shakyamuni Buddha to do exactly the opposite of what Shakyamuni was teaching. That Buddhahood is here now. All you need to do is experience it. There is nothing after death. There is no mind after death, so there is nothing for you to experience. The great engine of the universe, creating all of these forms of energy and matter from energy, continues. But you don't, I don't. We are only here for a short time. Buddhism is about living this life to its fullest. How do you live this life to its fullest if you're dead? It's simply not Buddhist to think that way. So this is what the Nirvana Sutra is identifying. It's just because someone is very literate and good at remembering things doesn't make them enlightened. In fact, to the point of an ichantika, these people are so enamored of their talents, of remembering all this stuff and using it as a manipulative tool, that they're cutting themselves off from enlightenment. Because they're just busy making love to words. They can't be bothered with the intent, the meaning. No. Let me just use this here in the supermarket. That is samsaric life, yeah? Moving on. Again, from the Nirvana Sutra. They will always claim to be arhats, some specially imbued human being, because they can quote all of this stuff. Outwardly, they'll appear to be wise and virtuous, right? Because you can ask them any question, they'll quote stuff for you. Wow, you're really brilliant. But at heart, where the meaning is, where the profundity of understanding and compassion is, they will harbor greed, jealousy, just like Brahmins practicing the ascetic exercises of silence. They'll think themselves haughty, superior. They will appear to be Buddhist monks, but not actually be so. Because that component of loving compassion, not there. With their rampant evil thoughts, they will slander the true Dharma. Well, by now you understand what that statement means, right? They're actually acting counter to the enlightenment of others. They're preventing real practice with the goal of self-enlightenment. Instead, playing this, cash and carry game, whatever. They're con men. Grandmaster Miao, now this is Nichiren. Grandmaster Miao says in his annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, quote, "The third group is most difficult to endure. It is because the latter group are more cunning and less likely to reveal their faults. They don't want you to know that, they're not invested. They want to appear superior to you, so they're going to hide the fact that they don't really believe what they're doing. They're just using it, the words of the sutras, to manipulate you. Don't look behind the curtain." Monk Chitu of Tuchung states in his Fa Seng Yichuan, the Tendai interpretation of the meaning of the Lotus Sutra, quote, "In the third place, 3 verses following, quote, some monks will stay in a monastery, refers to the acts of evil monks, representing those of all the wicked people." So these guys who are, or women, who are very versatile and knowledgeable about the words of the teachings, are no different than any other grifter. That's what that says. Where are what monks Chi Tu of Tungung calls acts of evil monks, representing those of all wicked people in Japan today? So we could ask the same question today. Where are they now? Where are these people who, with a lot of academic scholarship, are running around amassing fortunes, building political parties, or lobbying efforts to make more money? Where are they in Buddhism today? Where are these organizations that exist for the sole propagation of the organization, but not so much for the enlightenment of their students, quote unquote, their members? Do they really give a crap? Or do they just want to sell them another book, another, hey, subscription? Hey, join our cause. Hey, if you're really good at this, you can get a new this or a new that. Yeah. Isn't that great? You can be a wonderful consumer. That's the pinnacle of human life. Where are they? Can you identify any? Are they on Mount Hiei, in the Onjoji Temple, the Toji Temple, the temples in Nara, Keninji Temple, Jufukuji Temple, or in the Kenjoshi Temple? And Nichiren's not identifying idle scramblers by or leaders of sectors of land in Japan. He's identifying the very temples that present themselves as authorities of Buddhism. He's saying, see what they're doing? Are they promoting enlightenment, or are they promoting themselves? What are they selling you? We must find them, Nichiren says. Are they those monks of the Enrakuji temple on Mount Hiei who put on helmets and war armor? Now you see he's pointing to a clue. He's saying, well, if these are truly Buddhist monks, and as he's repeatedly said, will practice the way of self-enlightenment to the point that they will sacrifice their lives for it, why are they putting on war gear and weaponizing and putting on armor to fight for the elites and keep their control of the lands, instead of hunkering down and practicing Buddhism? I mean, I understand you have to stand for your practice, but that's an organized army. That's a different commitment, isn't it? He's asking the question. Or are they those monks of the Onjoji temple who are themselves with armor and sticks who arm themselves with armor and sticks in order to protect their dharma bodies of fivefold merit, bodies of the enlightened? Interesting questions. Probably room for, I wish you guys were here. We could have like a roundtable discussion about the possibilities of this, right? However, they do not look like those referred to in the encouragement for keeping this sutra chapter. Monks who wear robes and stay in tranquility. People do not suppose that they are revered by the people as though they were arhats with 6 superhuman powers. Or should I say that they are those who are more cunning and less likely to reveal their faults. Thus it seems that the third enemies of the Lotus Sutra refer to such monks as State Master Suichi of Kyoto and Ryokan of Kamakura. Do not blame me for saying this. If you have eyes, look at yourselves in the light of the sutras. It is stated in the Mohochikwan, the Great Concentration and Insight, Facile 1, that nobody has ever heard of any work as clear and profound as the method of meditation expounded in it, while Grandmaster Miao Lo says in his annotations on the Great Concentration and Insight, Facile 1, ever since the latter Han Emperor Ming Ti introduced Buddhism into China, after he had dreamed of a golden man until the Chen dynasty, many have learned and transmitted Zen Buddhism. According to Tsung Yi and Pu Chu, additional annotations to the three major works of Tendai, Bodhidharma transmitted Zen, right? We hear about that all the time, Bodhidharma. Concerning this Zen Buddhism, it is said that the Great Concentration and Insight, Facile 5, that both those blind monks who do not study, practicing only meditation, and those crippled ones who do not practice meditation but only study are bound to fail. Do you recall me talking about these three pillars of, and you can look that up on the threefoldlotus.com site, right? You can download the paper on that. The three pillars of practice, right? We chant, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. But how do we maintain and deepen our conviction and confidence to understand what it is we're doing? We have to study. When we study with our minds, we better grasp what it is we're doing with our lives and our practice, and we get insights as to how our practice functions to improve our lives. Study meditation. Meditation, active meditation, not meditation, right? Not an internal human ego loop. We reach into the universe for the true merit, the true identification of what we are. How do we understand? How does that work? How does that study? We have to do both. And both increases our confidence, our resolve. Number 3. They all work together. If you don't do all three, then you're short-circuiting yourself. You're not getting anywhere. You're running in a circle. After listing 10 ways of practicing Buddhism, Grandmaster Tendai states in the same Great Concentration and Insight, Facile 7, quote, except for translation in 9 out of 10 ways, I am vastly different from those monks in the world who study only the writings, or those Zen monks who are concerned with formality and ritual. Some Zen monks concentrate on meditation, but their meditation is either shallow or false because it's not based on a depth of understanding of the teachings. It's all ego. They're entertaining themselves. They practice none of the remaining 9 except for meditation. This is not idle talk. Wise men in the future who have eyes should consider this seriously. End quote. Observe. Wise men who have eyes. Look critically at the situation. It will be obvious. Grandmaster Miao Lo explains this in his annotations on the Great Concentration and Insight, Facile 7, quote, monks who study only the writings refer to those who are concerned only with scholastic aspects without understanding the true meaning of the teachings through wisdom, right? Insight. So we talk about this all the time here. Zen monks who are concerned only with formality refer to those who are concerned with the conventions of meditation without experiencing the true state of meditation. Right? Because what's the purpose of meditation? Not insight. That's what study's for. Meditation is to instantiate Buddha itself. Zen don't get that. They're looking for the void, for nothingness. It's very nihilist. And in fact, many sects of Buddhism, or Zen Buddhism especially, are just like the Hinayana. They become very nihilist. Denial of the value of this body, let alone the universe. That's not the goal of Buddhism. This is the same as the meditation of the Brahmins, who will never gain complete freedom from delusions and passions because it's egotistical. Tendai's statement that some Zen monks concentrate only on meditation is an understatement sympathetic to them. He was being kind. In actuality, they lack both practice in meditation as well as wisdom to understand the doctrine, because they don't study. And therefore, their meditation is empty. Oh, wouldn't they be happy to hear that? Those who practice Zen consider only meditation important and pay little attention to the study of doctrines. They interpret sutras from the viewpoint of meditation in such an absurd way as to say that the Eightfold Evil Path and the 8 winds makes the 16-foot-tall Buddha, and the 5 elements of all existence and the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and stupidity make the Eightfold Evil Path. You know the Eightfold Noble Path, right? So Zen flips that on its head. Egomaniacal. They confuse the 6 sensory organs with the 6 superhuman powers. Or confuse the 4 basic elements of the material world, earth, water, fire, and wind, with the 4 noble truths. Wow, I don't know how they do that. That such interpretations of the sutras are the worst of all is beyond question, and absurdity not worthy of discussion. This from Miao Lo. Where are we time-wise? Okay. Nichiren goes on to say, it is also stated in the Great Concentration and Insight, Facile 7, quote, once there lived a Zen master, Bodhidharma, in Yelo, whose name was known all over the land. Wherever he stayed, people gathered in crowds gazing at him. And whenever he left, hundreds and thousands of people swarmed around him to bid farewell. Such was his fame. But no benefits were gained. So at his last moment, he regretted his life. How pathetic is that? Bodhidharma is credited with a great deal. There's much lore about him in martial arts, from the Shaolin Temple, the first Indian Buddhist monk to come and retrain those people to strengthen there's whole exercises. Tai Chi Chuan derives from Bodhidharma. So there's a lot of lore still today, certainly in China, about Bodhidharma. But it was all earthbound. There was nothing transcendent. There was nothing enlightening. They were all survival skills and rituals. It's kind of like atonement. It's not an example of Buddhism. It's not living your full potential. Obsequiousness is not validating. All right. Miao Lo again explains this in his annotations on the Great Concentration and Insight when he says, quote, yea, is in Xiangzhou, and it was called Ye when it was the capital of northern Qi, but Luoyang when northern Wei had its capital there. Bodhidharma is the progenitor of Zen Buddhism in China, and he contributed greatly to the rise of Buddhism. He converted the royal capital to Buddhism, but hid his own name out of deference to the wishes of the people. Lo refers to Luoyang. The Sixth Facile Nirvana Sutra states, quote, "Not seeing the ultimate destination means that no one can know how evil those men of Ichantika can be." Grandmaster Myalo asserts, quote, "The last of the three groups of the enemies of the Lotus Sutra is hardest to endure because it is the group most cunning and less likely to reveal faults." So their legends may continue, all the while planting further seeds of obstacles to people's enlightenment. Don't these citations clarify who the three kinds of enemies at the beginning of the latter age are? Those who are blind or one-eyed, or those who have wrong views, may not see it. But those who have a shred of the Buddha eye should be able to see this. It is said in the encouragement for keeping this sutra chapter of the Lotus Sutra, quote, "They slander the one who practices the Lotus Sutra to the king, his ministers, Brahmins, and influential lay believers." Chi Tu of Tung Chun explained, quote, "They make reports to the authorities, slandering the true Dharma and the one who practices the Lotus Sutra," end quote. So in the past, toward the end of the age of the semblance Dharma, such monks as Gomyo and Xuen petitioned the imperial court, slandering Grandmaster Dengyo. Now, at the beginning of the latter age, such monks as Ryokan and Nenya, or Ryochu, have written letters to the shogunate falsely slandering Nichiren. How can they not be of the three kinds of enemies of the Lotus Sutra? Those of the Pure Land sect today say to the king, his ministers, Brahmins, and influential lay believers who are followers of the Tendai Lotus sect that the Lotus Sutra is too profound in principle for us to understand. Or its doctrine is from believing, is too profound for our shallow intelligence. We're too stupid to understand the Lotus Sutra. Are they not they who try to dissuade us from believing in the Lotus Sutra from Yoho Rengekyo? What is referred in the Great Concentration and Insight to as, quote, "those monks who consider the Lotus Sutra to be only for sages and too difficult for ignorant people like themselves," end quote. Now it's going to go into the Zen sect some more. I will leave that for the next video. Look, the important thing to get out of all of this, as I said when I started this video, we're simple creatures. And we want to be loved. And we want to experience love. Maybe the same thing. And we just want to experience the totality of our potential. We don't need many things to do that. We really don't. But the one critical ingredient that we need is clarity. How do I know I'm being loved? How do I know what love is? Boy, that word gets tossed around all over the place. But usually it's attached to all kinds of egos and earthly desires. And what is really, what is this? What is the light? What is the wonder, the magnificence of life? I know it's here, right? But because we're not sure how to get there, we find substitutes by owning stuff, by eating stuff, by going through relationships, by having sex 40 times a day. Name it. We attach ourselves desperately to anything to make ourselves feel like we think we should. So we know it. Somewhere in there we know it. So believe me, please, when I tell you, this is what Shakyamuni was all about. Enlivening your mind of clarity, understanding the real nature of life, the moment to moment manifestation fully. That's where that love is. That's where that belonging is. That's where that satiation of I am fully living is. That's what Buddhism is. When you feel that, what obstacles could there be? Right? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. For that reason alone, I'm so deeply proud of your practice, your courage. Myoho Renge Kyo. Open your Buddha mind today. I know that you are. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for downloading the podcast, if those help you. Use the resources, right? Lots of stuff here. And if I piqued your interest about something and you're not finding an answer to it, email me. Use the comments. I'll respond. I may have to chant for a while before I respond, so it may not be immediate, but I will respond. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I will see you in the next one, okay? Thanks for being here. And as always, bye for now.